A few questions some students had regarding the Hurricane Irma that may be approaching our direction or not, depending on how everything goes in the future. Are the buildings with backup generators the ones being used as shelters?
Well, first, let's hope it's not coming our way. At this point, the most recent reports are that it's going to head up the east coast and not head towards the west coast. We'll get a lot of rain and wind, but nothing of any sort that would cause us to have to evacuate campus or anything like that. The campus is all on generators, so the second that TECO goes out, Tampa Electric Company, our system goes on. The only buildings that are not on the generators are Marmy and Snyder, Benedictine Hall, and the admissions building. And those students would be given the opportunity to move down here into spaces that we could find for them to be in. When this happened about 10 years ago, students didn't want to leave Marmy and Snyder and still just wanted to stay there.
All right.
The event itself looks like it's going to be pretty quick,
Yeah.
not something like what happened in Houston where it came onto land, it came back off of land, it came back, went back onto land.
Yeah.
This one will be, hours long.
Would you recommend that if the hurricane were to come in our direction, which hopefully it's not going to, and most likely it won't, would you recommend that students go back prepared?
I think so. I think that if you definitely have valuables in your room, a book bag should be good enough to put some stuff in there just to be ready to go if you needed to. I don't think in this situation there'll be any reason to use a go bag.
Would you guys utilize the spare floors in Martin and Snyder for relocation assignments if need be?
If something happened to one of the other residence halls after the storm, then we might move people there. But again, in preparation for the hurricane, we wouldn't move people there because if the power went out, Marmy and Snyder wouldn't have power.
If the city of Tampa were to need a shelter, basically, is St. Leo University a shelter for off-campus residents?
We're listed as a shelter to assist Pasco County residents. However, we're the last one to be contacted. Mostly what happens is that they close elementary schools down, high schools down, middle schools down for people to move into those facilities. What we've talked to the county about is that we're willing to help if it's necessary, but our first priority are the students that currently live on campus. So if a person would be out of their house for a while and would be living in a Lewis Hall classroom or the hallway of St. Ed's, it's going to be a little hard for us to start classes back up next week at some point if there's people in those locations. But we would be good neighbors as a member of the community to assist in any way that we could.
You basically answered this question for residential, but if a building were to be damaged, like let's say a limb of a tree flew into Kirk Hall, would academic operations continue in that building, or would you guys repair it first and just have classes somewhere else?
It would depend on the level of damage. Most likely we would be able to isolate what that problem is and fix it and work around it.
Would you recommend students are able to safely do so get any supplies?
The dining hall will be open on the normal schedule that we have on weekends, which means it won't be open 12 hours. But the dining hall will be available. We have 2 pallets of water that if something was to happen to our water supply. The snack bar won't be open, the Lion's Lair, but I think that everything else that students would need. But should they go out and get popcorn or chips or something to watch a football game this weekend? Yeah, they should.
Should students do anything with food in fridges, assuming that we do have the backup generators here?
Yeah, the backup generators would take care of that so there wouldn't be any problem with the refrigerators, again, in every residence hall but Marmy and Snyder.
Again, low probability with the backup generators. If the university were to lose power, how would it communicate with students? Would it just continue with the messaging through the alert system we have or the megaphone?
We would use the emergency alert system. We could use the you said megaphone. Now I'm trying to think of the word because that one.
Yeah, that's not the
we could blast it across campus. or we'd still be able to send a message that would get to people's cell phones and their computers if they still had battery life in them. The other way we would tell them is every RA is on a communication tree, and RAs would go down the floor and let students know what's going on, as well as posting any messages up on the floor so students would know. Just like they did today, asking students to check in if they were staying here or checking out if they're not going to be on campus.
What would you have to say for like parents who are concerned for students, or students who this is technically their first hurricane? Like, what word of advice would you have for them?
With the storm going up the East Coast, we should have other than wind and water, there's rain, there should not be any problems here for our students. The other thing is that we're on one of the few hills in the state of Florida. So, you know, the lake has never come up to building 4 or building 3 apartment buildings. That just wouldn't happen. I mean, that would be good Lord, that'd be a torrential rain for that kind of water to come. There may be some minor flooding. We may have some water that goes through air conditioners on the walls, but we will have plant operations, facilities management here, full-time, 24/7 throughout the situation, the incident. Campus safety will have their entire staff here monitoring. Student affairs, residence life, dining services staff will also all be here to assist. I also live on campus. I'm not driving to Ohio or anywhere else because of this storm, and I don't think that there's going to be any major problems, and we've got a lot of experience dealing with these kinds of situations. We're 35 miles from the Gulf, so even if people are worried about storm surge and whatever, it just will not get here.